Hey everybody, Bonehead from the Bonehead podcast and welcome to Chaos Dwarf starting rosters. So Games Workshop have reimagined the Chaos Dwarf team. They've taken a couple of things away, a couple of dwarf blockers, and they've added a couple of new positionals as well, along with a couple of individual skill changes. So what we're going to have a look at today is starting rosters for your leagues, because there will be thousands of Blood Bowl players out there that are like, this team looks fantastic, the rules look interesting, I want to run them in league, and we're going to go through a whole bunch of different rosters you can start out with. But first, a quick summary of some of the key changes that have happened to the Chaos Dwarf team. If you've already watched our team guide, you will already know this. So the key changes are Chaos Dwarf blockers used to have 6, now you've only got 4. They used to have tackle, now they don't. But they do have Ironhard skin, which basically means your opponent will always have to roll armor 10+, whether they're hitting them with a chainsaw, with mighty blow, with claw, doesn't matter. Armor 10+ with thick skull means they're very resilient. So you lost 2 Chaos Dwarf blockers, you've now got 2 Flamesmiths. That's 1 movement better. They don't have block, they have brawler instead, they have disturbing presence and the ability to flame their opponents. Basically, you're looking at a 4+ to knock your opponent prone. On a 6, they go down, you roll armor. On a 1, you go down and roll armor. So it's risky, but it does mean that if you're taking out some blodgers, it's a really cool way of doing it. Actually, it's really effective for taking out enemy bull centaurs, which is quite entertaining. So you've got those changes. Hobgoblins are the same, but there's 2 hobgoblins now that come with shadowing and stab. The sneaky stabbers, you can take up to 2 of them. They're 70k a piece. We'll talk about that as we look through the roster builds, because 70k is quite a chonky. That's the same price as a Chaos Dwarf blocker. The Flamesmith is 80k. The Stabber being 70k means you're kind of either giving up a Chaos Dwarf blocker or almost 2 Hobgoblins. So they're definitely worth taking, but potentially not at the expense of 2 other Hobgoblins. You've got Bull Centaurs, they've not changed. You've got Minotaurs, they have changed. They are now Unchanneled Fury instead of Animal Savagery, which means sometimes they are going to just basically bonehead themselves out of the game. But you're not taking out your own Hobgoblins now. So a couple of new skills. Ironhard Skin is an update, and Breathe Flame is a brand new skill. So Breathe Fire, once per activation, instead of performing a block action either on its own or as part of a blitz action, this player may perform a Breathe Fire special action. So whenever you would roll block dice, you can do this instead. When a player makes a Breathe Fire special action, they may choose one standing opposition player they are marking and roll a d6, applying a -1 if that player is strength 5 or greater. On a 1, the player gets overeager, engulfs themselves in flame, and is immediately knocked down. Being knocked down in your active turn will cause a turnover. So if you roll a 1, or a 2 while hitting a big guy, you're going to turn over. You're going to knock yourself down, your opponent's going to roll armor, and it is going to be the end of the turn. So team rerolls, everybody, or pro potentially on this player. On a 2 to 3, nothing happens. On a 4+, the opposition player is placed prone. So if they've got the ball pops out at that point. On a natural 6, that target player gets knocked down instead, which means you roll armor. So you got the balance there. Sometimes it's going to be worse than a block, sometimes it's going to be better than a block. The fact that the Breathe Fire guys, the Firesmiths, don't have block, they have brawler instead, means that on a blitz this is almost always going to be better for you. But in a combat situation where you potentially got a bit of guard support and you're making a 2-die brawler hit, probably gonna give you better options there. Whatever happens, it's a really cool alternative skill and just a different option to run for the Chaos Dwarf team. Ironhard Skin has had a change. So in the article it mentioned this skill now ignores all modifiers to armor. So no mighty blow, no dirty player, no claw, no chainsaw, etc. And it will be added to the errata document. In the lore, as Chaos Dwarves use magic, it transmutes their skin and slowly turns them to stone, and in the game your blockers are now that bit harder to take out. So the Flamesmiths and the Chaos Dwarf blockers will be basically armor 10+ forever. The only flag is whether they still get supports when fouling you on the ground. However, Ironhard Skin and Thick Skull means that your Chaos Dwarves are going to be on the pitch a lot of the time. So the Chaos Dwarf roster is 0 to 6 Hobgoblins, 0 to 4 Chaos Dwarf blockers, down from 6 as we mentioned already, 0 to 2 Chaos Dwarf Flamesmiths, those are the Breathe Fire guys, 0 to 2 Hobgoblin Sneaky Stabbers, 70k, but the ability to stab, which will be really useful against light armored targets, 2 Bull Centaurs maxed, they are still 130k and they are still fantastic, and up to 1 Minotaur. So as we move forward and we look at some example starting rosters, we'll kind of talk through some different strategies and the different kind of parts of a Chaos Dwarf team you're going to want to have, which is succinctly the line, the ball carrying contingent, and your heavy hitter. And that's kind of the way you want to think about building your Chaos Dwarf roster. You want your consistency, and then you want a little bit of fun. And as we take some advice from you guys, instead of talking about skills every single roster, we'll quickly break down some quick skill work if you're planning on taking Chaos Dwarfs to a tournament, or you're planning on just running the league and starting to brew up your players. So the Minotaur. Juggernaut is wonderful, guard is good too, break tackle is also useful. This player being Edge 4+ means you get a 2+ dodge into the open field with break tackle. Obviously saving up for block is the best thing you can do on any big guy ever, but if you don't want to do it, then jugs or guard is going to be really useful. If you're using your Minotaur on the line, then guard. The Minotaur is a heck of a blitzer. If you're running him in your roster, you are probably going to want to use him as your blitzer, because if with a little bit of support, you could be throwing a 6-die block. That's 3 dice into frenzy into 3 more dice. So using jugs as the first upgrade, it triggers on a blitz and it turns your both downs into pushes. A push is great for a frenzy block most of the time because it means you just get another chance at knocking them down. So quick skill suggestions there for the Minotaur. The Bull Centaurs, right, block is the best skill on most players. The Bull Centaur being a strength 4 blitzer, block is going to make them more resilient on defense, but it's going to make them far more effective if you need to punch through. Now these guys are Edge 4+, so they're not often doing a lot of kind of ball picky, catching, dodging shenanigans. Giving them block means that if they've got the ball, they're going to help. It's going to help keep hold of it, but it also means that when they need to get through somewhere, the best way to do it with the Bull Centaur is to go through it. Okay, no skirting around, no, just punch and follow up and get out that way. Now, some people like to brew them up as ball carriers. Now, while I believe block is the better option, taking shorthands on a Bull Centaur is pretty cool too, because the more touchdowns you get, the more SPP you get. Dodge is obviously wonderful on any player, and they do get access to mutations. So I've pinged some of these players here to say they get mutation access on a double, which means that your kind of brewing up of your roster goes from this to this, because you've got extra heads to give you +1s to dodging, you've got extra arms to give you +1 to picking up the ball. It really does open up the options for your players, but the SPP is significantly more of an investment. So in a shorter league, block on a Bull Centaur is going to be just so useful, but you've got some great options out there, whether saving up for mutations, saving up for dodge, there's just a load of stuff you can do. Right, you've got 4 blockers on this roster, and I think most of these rosters are going to be running 4 blockers because they are consistent. They are durable as heck. Ironhide Skin and Thick Skull is going to make them more resilient than most Nurgle players. The fact they've got block and they can easily level up to take guard, mighty blow or tackle means that they are going to form an offensive line that an NFL team would be gagging for. So they're not as good as they used to be in the fact that they don't start with tackle, so your opponents can put dodge pieces on the line now and kind of dodge away for free. In the olden times you couldn't do that, so you're going to get slightly less free hits with these guys. But I think the destiny for most of these blockers, unless you go the mutation route, is to kind of go the guard, mighty blow route. Just create an offensive line that can support each other. Just go 2-die block with block, mighty blow, 2-die block with mop. It's going to absolutely mop up. There are some other great skills out there. You're going to want tackle on part of your team. I don't think these are the players that you're going to want it on, but you can do that. For example, a Bull Centaur to be a tackle safety is not bad. Block is obviously better, but it can definitely come in handy later. But when it comes to the blockers, that guard mighty blow transition, you can go claws route. I don't think you want them. They're only movement 4, so I don't think you want to use any edge boosting mutations on them, but hey, random mutations are always fun. Then you've got the Flamesmiths. So the Flamesmiths have got Brawler already, which means taking straight block is a bit of a letdown, but that just gives you essentially a 5th blocker, right, on the line potentially. Pro is going to be useful in combination with Brawler. It's also going to be useful in combination with your Breathe Fire skill. So Pro might be the best first skill here for a Flamesmith, but block is never bad. And the fact that they also get strength access means that Mighty Blow, Guard, etc. is also going to be very effective for them if you want to stack the line. The Flamesmith, if you're going to focus on the fact they got Brawler, then actually giving Guard to make your other blockers better and to give them SPP so they can guard and make your Flamesmith better is the right thing to do, but you've got that Flamesmith Breathe Fire opportunity as well. So I do think Pro is an interesting one to take on these guys. Then you've got Sneaky Stabbers. We've talked about this in some of our other videos, right? Stab is awesome, but if it doesn't work, you'll just end up standing next to an opposing player, which means you're about to get punched back. With no combat skills, no evasion skills, and no armor to speak of, the Hobgoblin Sneaky Stabber is a victim waiting to get victimized. Taking block, taking dodge is really good and will help keep your player alive. Block is the best way to do this. Oh, you get a movement 6 option then. A movement 6 block with a bit of guard support can be really effective as like a light blitzer. You can put tackle on them to make the most of that movement and just kind of pair up with shadowing just to force and hopefully get another opportunity for your opponents who fail that dodge roll. Taking dodge on them is a lot of SPP. They don't have edge access, so they are saving up the full 12 whack there. Getting dodge is going to help keep them alive, but honestly with a Sneaky Stabber, if you can keep them alive long enough to get a skill, get them block. If they fail their stab, it's going to give you just a little bit better defense. And then you've got your Hobgoblin linemen, which are basically just the best candidate in Blood Bowl to take a random general. Block is good, wrestle's good, dirty player is great on this team, sure hands is good, most general skills here are going to be really, really, really good. And the way I see this developing is your blockers and your flamesmiths and your bull centaurs, they're going to be brewing up SPP. Your bull centaurs will be faster than the rest of them. They're just going to cook. They're already good. Bull centaurs are already good, but they're just gagging for block, okay? Once you get there, you're sorted. Hobgoblins, they're 40k. You're going to make 40k every single game, so you can just fire them if you don't like them. 1 touchdown, 3 SPP, you take a random, cool. I've got a movement 6 light blitzer now because he's got block or wrestle to sack the ball, or tackle to be an additional sweeper, or kick to just pin the ball back or close against my opponent. 3 SPP, take a random general, start building the story for the Hobgoblin, and it will also help advise how the rest of your team develops as well. If you've got a couple of tackle Hobgoblins, you can probably prioritize Mighty Blow on the Bull Centaur instead of one of them needing tackle. It just gives you a little bit better of a defense. So it's really interesting. The Hobgoblins taking the random generals will help free up a couple of extra skills on your positionals there. So that's the quick skill summary. Now into some of the rosters. Okay, so you went to your local gaming store and you picked up a box of Hobgoblins. This is the box roster. You've got no Minotaur and you've got no Bull Centaurs in this one. So out of the box, you've got 4 blockers, 2 flamesmiths, 2 sneaky stabbers, 5 hobgoblins, and 3 rerolls is going to take you to 990,000. So out of the box, you're going to be parking 1 hobgoblin. The only thing you can do here is drop a sneaky stabber, take a hobgoblin, save yourself 30k, and put the rest into DF. But I think if you're running out of the box here, I mean, dedicated fans is excellent to build up cash. And if you're going to do this to be like, right, I've got the box, I'm going to start playing with them, and later on down the line, I'll buy a Bull Centaur, then yeah, you may want to drop one of the sneaky stabbers there and prioritize dedicated fans so that you can start building up that cash. But if you want to play with your team and just have the most shenanigans that you can straight out of the box, this is the roster. 3 rerolls is going to be the sweet spot for most teams. This is an interesting one though, Chaos Dwarves. They used to be the most consistent team kicking around. Having 6 block pieces will do that for you. Now they've only got 4 block pieces. Those 2 brawler players, slightly less consistent. And this roster here, you've got no sure hands, you've got no other block, you've got no dodge. You do need rerolls if you're going to be participating. And at 70k a pop, a reroll costs you a lot of other resource on your roster. So where this one doesn't have any strength 4 or strength 5 pieces, I think taking the 3 rerolls is just going to mean that when you do get a flamesmith opportunity to take a corner off a cage so that you can put some tackle zones on the ball or whatever, you're going to want that extra reroll to just kind of make up for that strength disadvantage. Just keep the rest of your team consistent. When it comes to Chaos Dwarves, you need 1 reroll per game to pick up the ball. It could be on a Bull Centaur, could be on a Hobgoblin, doesn't matter. You need 1 for that and 1 for disasters. With this one, you want 1 to give you an advantage as well, I think. So anytime you can take 3 rerolls in a league, it depends on how long the league is, right? If you're playing a short league, then actually taking the rerolls early is the right thing to do. Once you start your league, rerolls cost twice as much, and 140k is a lot. You're better off starting with that extra reroll and saving 130k for your Bull Centaur. In this edition of Blood Bowl, that's going to take you 2 good games with some good dedicated fans, or realistically more like 3 games. So by game 4, you're going to have that Bull Centaur already. So from a economy point of view, it's better to do it that way around. From a stats and SPP point of view, you're better off having 2 rerolls and a bull centaur if you can afford it, because the bull centaur then gets more reps, you get more chance of the SPPs, and you'd rather have a bull centaur with block and then buy your 3rd reroll than the other way around. But the box roster here, you're going to get a good feel for most of the Chaos Dwarf team, but you are just going to be missing that really heavy hitting piece. So this is where you start, I guess. And then you want to kind of think, do I want a heavy hitter? And the heaviest hitter that this team does have is the Minotaur. Now, I love the Minotaur. It is less reliable than the Bull Centaur. Okay, so if you are a consistent player, the Bull Centaur is better. The Minotaur will let you down twice a game. The Bull Centaur probably will only let you down once a game, just because it doesn't have any skills. So the Minotaur is going to fail something and then is going to loner yourself out. But man, when the Minotaur hits on a blitz with a bit of support, 6 die block, mighty blow, it's such an effective removal piece. And the way this roster builds out, you've got a really consistent core as well. So you've got 4 blockers and 2 flamesmiths. That's your box, okay? That's your 6 players that sit on the front. Whether you go 6 on the line or split them up, so you've got your flamesmiths kind of with that movement 5 to run around and give you supports to make your blockers do better. Depends on the circumstances, that's probably how I see it. But the point is, you've got 6 pieces here of strength 3 with a combat skill at armor 10 plus with thick skull. That is a heck of a bit of resilience. You've got 5 hobgoblins on this roster as well. Hobgoblins are great. Movement 6 is fine. Edge 3 plus is fine. They're good players. They're going to be there to run around, use that extra bit of movement to give better supports to your blockers and your flamesmiths, and also pick up the ball. Don't forget about the ball. And then you've got the Minotaur. So the Minotaur here is going to be your point and click delete button. So you've got a solid front core. You've got hobgoblins on the wings that can support, get a foul in, just be that extra bit of extra support, that extra tackle zone. And then you've got the Minotaur sitting there as a gigantic linebacker. And that makes this team so threatening, because your opponent's like, right, front line, I got 4 Chaos Dwarves with block and 2 Flamesmiths that can just ignore all my skills and nuke me, even on a blitz. I'm not worried about the Hobgoblins, but in the backfield I've got Hobgoblins, which is fine, but then I've also got a Minotaur. And 1 Hobgoblin plus 1 Minotaur equals a strength 6 blitz with Frenzy and Mighty Blow. So it becomes a real threat. And that's where, like, so this is like the most dangerous start, I think, for Chaos Dwarfs. You've got the Minotaur to be the big hitter, and you've just got the core consistency of that Chaos Dwarf team. And in this edition, where you've got the Flamesmiths, whether they're better or worse will depend on each individual circumstance, but they are still potent, they are still risky, and the Flamesmiths having a little bit better movement does help you out here. Now this roster comes in 1 million with 12 players and 3 rerolls, so you can do a bit of fudging one way or another. You can drop a Hobgoblin, upgrade one into a Stabber. I don't recommend doing that, because this team is going to need 12 plus players. You're going to lose a Hobgoblin, not just from your opponent going, oh, I could hit the strength 3 block piece with armor 10 plus, or I could hit the strength 3 piece with no block and armor 8 plus. I'm going to hit them instead. They're going to get hit and they're going to get removed. But also because you've got 6 blockers and 2 Flamesmiths and a Minotaur, you are going to be knocking your opponent's pieces on the ground. And sometimes that just means you've got a 40k Hobgoblin with movement 6 who can just wander over and put the boot in and really remove a player. So you're going to want at least 12 players. That's why I built this roster this way, because 1 Hobgoblin's probably going to die, another one's probably going to die or be sent off. So you can't have everything, but you can have a lot. Now, the Minotaur has a higher ceiling but a lower floor, I think. Is that right? The higher floor. So it can go bad. The Minotaur can go bad. It's hard for things to go wrong with the Bull Centaur. They've got no nega trait and they've got no loner. The Bull Centaur is by most regards a better player than the Minotaur. Doesn't have Frenzy, Mighty Blow and Strength 5, but it's damn fast and damn effective. So 1 Bull Centaur on this roster. We've got 12 players. It comes in at 980. It's the same roster as the Minotaur, but this is going to be more consistent for you. You have less high end with that strength 6 blitz, but you've got a piece there that's not going to fail you. And with the Bull Centaur having early access to general, you are going to get your heavy hitter up to the point where it can take block so much quicker than if you're running the Minotaur. You don't have loner, and this roster having 3 rerolls means you're going to be able to make the most of it. So your Bull Centaur making a 2-die block is going to have the benefit of one of your team rerolls in the back pocket to just pull it out and make it a 4-die block without having to worry about rolling any nega traits. So this kind of, if you want to go with a core of good chorfs and your hobgoblin backups and a reasonable amount of rerolls, this gives you the option of going, okay, do I want to go big with the Minotaur or medium with a Bull Centaur? And that's entirely down to you. Whichever one you choose, I guarantee you, you will go, oh, I wish I'd taken the other one instead. If your Bull Centaur hits, you could really use that Frenzy. Sometimes you just really could use that Frenzy. And on the other way around, the Minotaur is going to double skull and you're going to go, I really could use not having Loner. So it doesn't matter which one you take because you're going to want the other one, but they're both fun and they're both fun in different ways. The Bull Centaur does get better quicker. So I would say that as far as rosters go, this one is slightly better. The Bull Centaur is going to level up better, and it's just going to be a more consistent roster for you. Now, the fact that this is coming in 980 means you've got 20k to play with here, so you can afford to drop a reroll potentially and do a couple of shenanigans, take an extra hobgoblin, take an apothecary to keep your pieces alive. But if you're starting out with chorfs, this is not a bad roster. You will finish some halves with the rerolls, but starting out with a vanilla Bull Centaur and those hobgoblins, like I said at the beginning, you're going to need one to pick up the ball, one to save you from disaster, and one to make up for a lack of skills. It's not bad. None of this is bad. This is all just wonderful. But you've paid the piper. You've gone to Forge World and said, hello, I'll have 2 centaurs, please. And you're looking at it and you're like, boy, howdy, wouldn't it be lovely if I could run 2 centaurs, please? Roster here, please. So the double centaur roster gives you 2 Bull Centaurs, 4 blockers, 2 flamesmiths, 4 hobgoblins, that and 2 rerolls for 12 players. This one comes in at bang on $1 million. So you can run all your chorfs here. But there are some vulnerabilities. Only 2 rerolls is probably fine. Your blockers, your flamesmiths, and the strength advantage of the Bull Centaurs plus the integral reroll of Sure Feet is going to mean that 2 rerolls is fine for most of the time. What this is going to do, and I promise you this, is at some point your Bull Centaur is going to have a great opportunity to sweep in and pick that ball up, and you're going to flub it on a 3. And your hobgoblin might just need a better block, and you're just going to run out of rerolls. Now you can flex, and this is something that is kind of important to talk about. You've got 12 players. Only 4 of them are hobgoblins. That's only 4 Edge 3+ players, but it also means you've only got 4 Armor 8+ players. So your vulnerability is much lower. Like, your resilience is much higher with this roster. So if you wanted, what you could do is drop a flamesmith or drop a blocker and just take that reroll, and then you kind of got like 11 players for a game. And at that point, you're probably going to have the spare cash, plus your income, plus your dedicated fans to take the player that you didn't choose to buy. So you can get 3 rerolls, but you do have to give up one of your players. And this is like the all-in roster, but this is going to give you a better player experience on the table for that game. As far as league goes, I think it is technically better to drop a blocker on this one, or a flamesmith, probably drop a flamesmith to be honest with you, and take that 3rd reroll. You're only running at 12 players, you're only running at 11 players at that point, but you've got 3 rerolls, and the players on this roster, hobgoblins are 40k, so if you are absolutely shimmied, you've got the chance to buy up. But the blockers being 70k, it's expensive to buy 4 to 6 of them, right, at 70 or 80k, but it's not that much to save up to get one. You're gonna be... You can do it in one game. If you've got a little bit of spare cash, you can do it in one game. So you can probably flub this in the way that you drop a blocker, you drop a flamesmith, sorry, you keep 10k, and then you just hope to roll high on your DF in the first round. Maybe by game 3, definitely by game 3, you'll have filled out your roster, you'll have that 3rd reroll. But those first couple of games, you will be down a resilient piece and down a player. It's definitely not insurmountable, and you may just be comfortable going, I'd rather have the players than the rerolls. That's going to be down to you. They both have advantages, and again, like I said earlier, whichever one you choose, you're going to go, oh, I wish I had that 3rd reroll, or oh, I wish I had the 2nd flamesmith. It's just how Blood Bowl works. But wait, there's more. Heavy hitter roster. 1 Minotaur, 2 Bull Centaurs, 4 of the consistent Chaos Dwarf blockers, 4 Hobgoblins, brings you up to 11 players, 2 rerolls, 990k. This is for those players that just want to do the stuff on the pitch right now. You can even take 10k and upgrade a blocker to a Flamesmith if you want to get the full Chaos Dwarf experience straight off the bat. This is potentially a little bit too aggressive of a roster, but damn is it fun. You've got 2 strength 4, movement 6 to 9 sweepers and a Minotaur who's running around frenzy hornsing at strength 6. It is a pandemonium of disaster and death. It is very cool, and it's kind of like playing a significantly better Chaos Pact team in a kind of way. I've got 3 big lads here. It's like a kind of like a Norse team. I don't recommend this roster, but it can be done and it can be fun. And do you know what? I mean, I say don't recommend it. I do recommend it, and I would recommend dropping a blocker and taking a Flamesmith just to get all the Chaos Dwarf bits out and play with them. It's a lot of fun. It's not as good as some of the other rosters in the way of actually being consistent, especially for league development, but I don't know. You could spike, and if you're going to go for removal, this is going to work lovely. But if you're a competent player, you've played Chaos Dwarves in the past, or you're kind of going into your second season with them, or you just be like, right now, I want to start out proper, the mid-range roster is going to give you a lot of power. Now, there are some Chaos Dwarf players that are like, get the Minotaur away from me, and that's absolutely fine, but there are some players out there that are like, actually, Bull Centaur, Minotaur, this is interesting. So 1 Minotaur, 1 Bull Centaur, 4 Chaos Dwarf blockers, 1 Flamesmith, and 4 Hobgoblins, and 2 rerolls. Now this is going to give you 11 players. So you've got a dual vulnerability here, 4 Hobgoblins, no bench, and only 2 rerolls. But what you can do is you've got your players to start the league with. Now, we've talked about the way the finances works in League, but if you can play tight and ignore the fact you've got the reroll, you've got your Minotaur there to start hitting and taking casualties. You've got the Bull Centaur there to start getting some scores in and achieving things. You've got 4 blockers to be a really potent front line. And then you've got that choice of, do I, at 80k, buy the second Flamesmith, or do I save all the way up to 140k and potentially get that 3rd reroll? And you've also, and this is really important, this roster at the moment is 940,000. Now, the reason I've left that low is because it gives you the chance here to make a choice. Do I want a 12 player in another Hobgoblin? Do I want to take an Apothecary? And if I was going this route, then the Apothecary might be better for you. The Minotaur is going to level up slowly. The Bull Centaur is going to level up middlingly. Your blockers are going to level up, but I mean, it doesn't matter about those guys because with Ironhard skin, they're not going anywhere. Same with the Flamesmiths. So starting this roster, either piling in all the DF or taking an Apothecary to keep your positionals alive is going to be one way to go. I like this one for the fact that it is a lot of fun, and taking the Apo is going to keep him on there. You are going to be playing the second half with 10 players, but those 10 players are going to be some of the best available. Unlike this roster, this is the Hobgoblin team roster. Okay, so the Hobgoblin team is an infamous team in Blood Bowl because it was bad. I actually don't think the Hobgoblin team is that bad. I think a team full of Hobgoblins here, I think this is fine. It's definitely barely tier 2, but it's not the worst roster in Blood Bowl. So you can take for 900,000, 2 Sneaky Stabbers, 10 Hobgoblins, and 3 rerolls. That's 12 players, 3 rerolls. That's 1 for disaster, 1 for picking up the ball, and 1 to kind of take a glory block. And I've put the Minotaur here as well. Now, this is going to be really divisive. There are going to be some people like that. No, the Hobgoblin team has just Hobgoblins, Ben. And I'm like, that's absolutely fine. But this roster would then be 750k, which means you're getting 200 to 250k's worth of inducements most of the time. What are you going to do with that? Because whatever you're taking, unless it's Rashnak and just a bunch of bribes or whatever, it's not going to be as good as just rostering that Minotaur. Okay, there is no other heavy hitter, I think, that plays for this team that you want to take at that level. I think the Minotaur is just a lot of fun. Just include it, and in your own mind, because he's loner 4+, he can be just a permanent mercenary that's attached to the Hobgoblin team. The team can take Badlands Brawls, so actually the Black Gobbo might be quite fun. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do by dropping the Minotaur and having all the inducements. I don't know which way you want to go, but if I'm running Hobgoblins, I want something that's scary to back me up. And the Minotaur just being there at 150k is an absolute flipping bargain. Okay, so that is the starting rosters for Chaos Dwarves. There are probably a couple that I've missed. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I haven't included the Sneaky Stabbers in a huge amount of the rosters. We talked about this earlier, right? They are 70k instead of 40k. And when it comes to the Chaos Dwarf roster, the Bull Centaurs are doing stuff, the Blockers are doing stuff, the Flamesmith is doing stuff, the Minotaur is doing stuff. The Sneaky Stabber is just the best of a good group of stuff, of fun stuff. So if you want to try them out, you lose a Dwarf Blocker. And most of the time that's going to hurt your EV, but it's going to be fun. And that is I think that's my favorite thing about this Chaos Dwarf roster now, is you've got so many choices and they're all good, but you always have one thing okay, take this roster, but I have to sacrifice my Flamesmiths, or I have to sacrifice Bull Centaur, or I have to sacrifice a reroll. The cool thing is with this roster, I don't think it matters. If you've only got 2 rerolls, you've got a ton of cool stuff on the pitch. If you're running 3 rerolls, it's just going to boost up the stuff you do have. I love it. I think it's really interesting, and I think we're in for a good time with Chaos Dwarves. They've toned them down a little bit in the way of just raw, consistent power, but they've given them some fun and some edge and some differential, and I think that's just worth it all of the time. Anyway, let me know what you think, and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.